This is Dale Ingram with Speaking Truth Love Ministries. Our Bible study today is our End Time series, and we're going to be starting out the second half of Revelation chapter 7. So if you've got your Bibles handy, I'd encourage you to grab them, open them up to Revelation chapter 7. Just a couple of quick things before we actually get into the text. So with this particular study, we're going to be looking at all the events of the tribulation period in the book of Revelations. Then we'll be going back through the book of Daniel in the prophetical chapters. We'll be looking at Ezekiel 38, 39, the Gog-Magog wars. We'll look back at Ezekiel 37, which is the valley of the dry bones, prophecy about Israel and Israel's rebirth, and along with many other passages. So the study itself is going to last quite a while. And I would encourage you, if you know of somebody that's interested in the end times, to share this with them. I know there's a lot of people out on social media now, well-known preachers doing end time studies as well. And but if you find it helpful, go ahead and share it. That would be great. So Revelation chapter 7, let's dive right in. We talked a little bit last week. We got into chapter 7, talks about the 144,000 in the first half. They are 12,000 from each of the tribes of Israel. These are people that get saved in the early part of the 7 years. In Revelation 14, where they're mentioned again, it refers to them as the first fruits. And we believe that that means they're among the millions that are going to get saved early in the tribulation period. I think when the rapture happens, so many things are going to change in our world. Everyone's worldview, their perspective, is going to radically change, and a lot of people are going to get saved. They're going to realize that what the Bible said was true. And among those millions that get saved, now, of course, many are going to be martyred, but God is going to choose out 12,000 young unmarried men from each of the tribes of Israel, totaling 144,000. God's going to choose them out. He's going to set them aside. And we saw last week in the first half that they are sealed. Before the trumpet judgments, the four angels that it says hold the four winds, before they unleash their judgments on the earth, the 144,000 are sealed. So it's like they're miraculously protected. And we believe that they're going to be world evangelists. They're going to travel around the world and preach the gospel. And we believe that Satan's not going to be able to hinder them. They're going to have free reign to travel and speak. And the reason we say that is we get to verse 9. Let's start there. I know we read it last week, but let's read it again. After these things, I looked and behold a great multitude, which no one could number, of all nations, tribes, peoples, and tongues. And we can't emphasize that enough. That means every language group, every tribal community, whether we're talking about, regardless of what country, what continent we're talking about, there are many tribal groups. And every single one of those tribal groups, every language, every tongue, every tribal group, there will be multitudes saved. So millions upon millions are going to get saved. Many of them are going to die. They're going to be martyred. We're going to see that in just a few minutes. But the 144,000 we think are taking the gospel out to all the ends of the earth. And so we see as we get down here to verse 13, then one of the elders answered, saying to me, who are these arrayed in white robes, and where do they come from? And I said to him, sir, you know. And he said to me, these are the ones who come out of great tribulation. So these are the ones from every kindred, nation, tribe, and they get saved during the 7 years. And of course, at this point, they're being martyred. So in the fifth seal judgment, we see, I think, the first wave of martyrs. I think there's another wave of martyrs. As 144,000 are going out and they're witnessing, they're evangelizing, they're reaching the ends of the earth. Many of those are going to be martyred. And then it says here, verse 14 again, I said to him, sir, you know. So he said to me, these are the ones who come out of great tribulation, who wash their robes, made them white in the blood of the Lamb. That's the only way that we can be saved. The only way we can get to heaven is by the atoning work of Jesus Christ. What he did for us on the cross, and we put our faith and trust in him, his atoning work on the cross, his resurrection 3 days later. We put our faith and trust in him. We become a Christian. And same with these folks during a tribulation period, the same way, faith and trust in Jesus Christ. It says, therefore they are before the throne of God to serve him day and night in his temple, and he who sits on the throne will dwell among them. Now, I want you to notice this in verse 16. It says, they shall neither hunger anymore nor thirst anymore. The sun shall not strike them, nor any heat, for the Lamb who is in the midst of the throne shall shepherd them and lead them to living fountains of waters, and God shall wipe away every tear from their eyes. You notice how it says that they shall not hunger anymore. Remember, underneath the rider on the black horse, the third seal judgment, famine. So you've got a false peace. You got the riding the red horse, war, and no doubt World War III, and then nation against nation. And then you've got the famine, and you've got disease or pestilence, and then the wild beasts of the earth. So it's interesting. It specifically says here they'll not hunger anymore. See, they've passed away. They're in heaven. They're finally at rest. They're at peace. They're not going to hunger anymore. They're not going to thirst anymore. And it's a very, I think, moving and I think touching picture, because it says, for the Lamb who is in the midst of the throne will shepherd them. It means he's going to take care of them. He's going to look after them. When we get to heaven, we can only begin to imagine. I think the Bible says that we can't even truly imagine all the things that God has in store for us when we finally get there. Even when we pass away today, there's trials. It's nothing like what it's going to be in the 7 years of tribulation, but there's trials, there's pain, there's suffering, there's grieving, there's abuse, domestic violence, all kinds of stuff that's going on. When we know Jesus Christ, the Lord and Savior, our hope is, and the thing that we really look forward to is for the day when we're going to finally be with our Savior, Jesus Christ. And it's just going to be absolutely amazing. And so it's a very touching passage there. But let's go right into chapter 8. Let's pick it up with verse 1. And when he opened the seventh seal, so Jesus has been loosing each of these 7 seals that's around a scroll or a book in order to get to the contents of the book. Now, the books are not opened until the end of the 7 years. But as Jesus looses this 7th seal, that's going to turn into, honey, why don't you put this other slide up? So that 7th seal is going to turn into the 7 trumpet judgments. And then when the 7th trumpet is blown, that's going to turn into the 7 bowl judgments right there at the very end. So if you want a copy of any of these slides, there's a link there. I think Faye's going to post a link in the chat box, and you can just go there. You can download this and print it off if you'd like. And there's a whole series of slides that we're going to be eventually going over as we work our way through the book of Revelation. And again, I understand that every prophecy teacher is going to arrange the judgments in a little different location. The same with the 144,000. Some think they're in the second half. I think they're in the first half predominantly. 2 witnesses. So you'll see how I've got them on here, and we're going to work our way through. I also want to stress this, that I do believe these chapters in the book of Revelation are generally in a chronological order. And the reason I stress that is because there's some Bible teachers that say, no, it's not chronological, and this chapter goes over here, and you got to take this chapter and put it back here. And all that does is confuse things. God's got it all laid out, and generally speaking, it'll flow in a chronological order. And we'll explain that more as we go through each of these chapters. So chapter 8, when he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. So you just imagine the weight of that. We have here on earth, we have, horrific events. in Israel, the October 7th, and remembering back for us in America, 9/11 and what happened, and we come around to the anniversary, and in many locations where they're doing some kind of a memorial, they'll have a moment of silence, and it might be a minute, it might be a few minutes, and can you imagine though, in heaven, there's actually silence for about a half an hour. The enormity of what is about to happen, what's already happened, a quarter of the Earth's population is already gone. War, famine, disease, the wild beasts of the earth, quarter of the Earth's population over that already gone. Now, as these seven angels prepare to sound, there is going to be a massive loss of life again. And we're not talking about millions, we're talking about billions of people. So, and again, a billion is 1,000 million. It's so hard for us to wrap our heads around the devastation that's going to take place here as the 7 years unfold. And there is a crescendo as you get even closer to the end. It just picks up in intensity all the way to the end, to when Jesus comes back in Revelation 19 on the white horse. So there is a steady buildup, and yet even early in the 7 years, we're talking about billions of people being destroyed. So it says in verse 2, John says, I saw the seven angels. Remember, he's in heaven now. So he's watching these scenes in heaven. And he says, I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. So there's like a drama unfolding in heaven. John is actually witnessing the angels being given the trumpets, and then they prepare themselves to sound. It says in verse 3, then another angel having a golden censer came and stood at the altar. So there's an altar in heaven. Remember the tabernacle that God gave to Moses, and then later the temple that was built? It was patterned after what is in heaven. So John's there in heaven witnessing this. And this other angel has a golden censer. He came, stood at the altar. He was given much incense that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne. Remember the prayers of these saints. This is probably a reference back to the fifth seal judgment, where John saw the souls of those who've been killed early in the 7 years for their witness for Christ. And what are they doing? They are praying and saying, God, how long before you take vengeance on those on the earth? And God gives them white robes and says to be patient a little while longer until both their friends and brethren who are going to be killed like them are killed. So again, so I think we see like three separate massive waves of persecution. This is the second one. And again, the prayers of the saints is being offered there on the altar. Verse 4, and the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascends before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. So there's an intensity here. Usually when you throw something, there's anger, and the wrath of God is being poured out, and this angel throws it to the earth, and there were noises and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. So the seven angels who had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. So let's go to this first one, verse 7. The first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth, and a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. So when the first angel blows the trumpet, and again, these judgments, you look at the seal judgments, and it's like man to man, man on man. It involves people on the earth, and you see the war, the famine, the disease, the animals, all that stuff. But now as we get to the trumpet judgments, there's almost a heavenly direction, at least from some of these. And this first one, again, it says, hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth. So it almost seems like maybe it's coming from heaven. A third of the trees were burned up. All the green grass was burned up. These are worldwide judgments. You know, there's always massive fires every year, different continents, different countries. And so fire on earth is nothing new, but this is going to be worldwide, devastating, massive judgments. And it says a third of the trees and all green grass was burned up. Verse 8. And the second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the living creatures of the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. So let's think about that one for a minute. I like it when it says something like a burning mountain. So in other words, it's not Mount Everest on fire that God picks up and throws down. It's something like a burning mountain. So it could be a massive asteroid coming down out of the heavens. It is fascinating with NASA and the incredible telescopes that we have now that look out into outer space. And people around the world at night are studying, watching, and they pick up new things all the time. They just had a news article here a week or so ago, something new there in the heavens. Is it a comet? We're not sure what it is. So maybe this is going to be a massive asteroid that is going to strike the Earth. We're not sure, but it seems like perhaps it's something like that. And you can imagine the devastation, a third of the sea. I don't think this is talking about just, the Mediterranean Sea. These are global events. This may be the Atlantic Ocean. It may be the Pacific Ocean. It'll be a massive body of water. The energy from this is so powerful that it will destroy a third of all the sea creatures, a third of all the ships that are there. And if this is, again, talking globally, and it hits the Atlantic, it hits the Pacific or another ocean that would be proportion to that, then all the ships in that ocean are wiped out, all marine life dead, wiped out. So we're talking massive, massive amount of impact. Is this a nuclear blast and the radiation, and of course the tsunami that's going to follow this? Only God knows the total amount of destruction that's going to happen because of this. But it is kind of interesting, the number of doomsday movies that are out there. I've seen, a few of them. There's actually quite a few where, scientists discover there's an asteroid on its way, and then all the nations are scrambling. Of course, your wealthiest, are heading to their bunkers, and they're going to their safe places as far from the, ground zero that they can get, in hopes of surviving the catastrophic event. So it is fascinating how people think about doomsday. And of course, the Bible talks about this, and maybe that's where a lot of people get these ideas from, but it's going to happen. And maybe very similar to some of these scenarios that they've got in the movies. So it comes, massive devastation. Let's go down to verse 10. Then the third angel sounds, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and the springs of water. And the name of the star was Wormwood, and a third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the water because it was made bitter. So this is toxic. It's poisonous. And again, is this a nuclear weapon and this radioactive fallout? Very good possibility that that's what it's talking about. Is it a comet that strikes Earth and has a lot of toxic material with it and poisons the water? Whatever it is, And wherever this hits, it's going to impact, again, a huge amount of earth. A third of the fresh water is going to be wiped out. And it's going to have a devastating impact on life on earth when this happens. And remember, all of these things, all of these wars and all of these judgments are being sandwiched into 7 years. 7 years sometimes seems like it's a long ways away. But when you think of one catastrophic event after another, after another, after another, one war. Now, the wars, the nation against nation, that's the first half. Because when we get halfway through Revelation chapter 13, and we have the full rise of the beast and the Antichrist and the false prophet, they're going to rule the world. So during the second half of the tribulation, it is a one world government. It's not nation against nation now, because there's powerful empire has conquered the world. They're going to rule it for the second half underneath the Antichrist. The image of the beast will be in the holy place. And, the wrath of God continuing to fall, as well as the two witnesses, which we'll see them in chapter 11. But let's go down farther. So all of this stuff's going on. Now, verse 12, then the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. A third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. So is this something in our outer atmosphere that blocks out a third of the daytime as far as the sunlight getting through, and blocking out a third of the night instead of the moonlight can't get through, and you can't see the stars for a third of that? Whatever it is, it's blocking a third, and it obviously it's going to be cataclysmic. When massive volcanoes erupt, the skies are darkened because you get, millions of tons of dust particles that get spread high up into the atmosphere, miles up in the atmosphere, and that blocks the sun, the heat from the sun. And we've had throughout human history time periods where it's like a year without a summer, because the sun is blocked from the rays getting through to warm the earth, that the summers are abnormally cold, hard to grow crops and all that. We've had those times in history. This may be something like that. Again, it may be something from a nuclear blast throwing the millions of tons of dust. Maybe something else. Maybe, outer space. We're not sure what it is, but it will happen just as God says it's going to happen. Now, here's what I want you to notice. Verse 13. This is fascinating stuff. When you get to verse 13, John says, I looked and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the remaining blast of the trumpet of the three angels who are about to sound. So 7 angels, 7 trumpet judgments, 4 angels have sounded. And there's each one contains a third of destruction, right? So that, third of the trees and all the grass burned up and so on. A third. Now there's actually an angel, and I think this, when it says flying through the midst of heaven, this is probably the atmosphere around the earth. That's referred to in the Bible as a heaven, and then outer space, what we call outer space, is a heaven, and then where God dwells is the third heaven. This angel is probably flying through the midst of our atmosphere, proclaiming to the earth. Now, we do know there's going to be 3 angels. We'll see them before long. There are 3 angels who fly through our atmosphere and actually are proclaiming to the earth 3 things. One is preaching the gospel. Imagine that, an angel flying through our atmosphere, proclaiming to people on earth the gospel of Jesus Christ. Second angel, when they fly through, and we'll get to this we'll get to this before long. Second angel is announcing the destruction of Mystery Babylon. And then the third angel is warning people, don't take the mark of the beast. So we know that we have three angels that are going to be going through Earth's atmosphere. This angel flying through the midst of heaven may be doing the same thing. It's either in heaven where John is, just proclaiming in heaven, woe, woe, woe to those inhabitants of earth by reason of the three angels you got the sound. But he may be going through the atmosphere here, and people on earth can hear the angel warning them. It's really bad now, but it's going to get worse with these next three trumpets. So let's dive into that. We go to chapter 9 and verse 1. Then the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fallen from heaven to the earth, and to him was given the key to the bottomless pit. So this star, and a lot of people say, well, I don't read Revelation because I can't understand it. And, they use figurative language and I don't know, what's real, what's not real. Listen, in the vast majority of cases, when God is giving a word picture or maybe an image that represents something, God explains or gives us a clue or a hint what it is. So here he says, for instance, a star falls from heaven. John says, I saw a star fall from heaven. Well, is it a stellar star that falls? No, it's not that. It says to him was given. This is a fallen angel that is given the task of coming to earth. He's given a key to this bottomless pit. This bottomless pit, Peter talks about it. Jude talks about it in the book of Jude. There are some fallen angels, a group of fallen angels who have been chained, reserved to the judgment. Now, we don't know for sure, is this part of that group of angels? Let's read a little bit farther here and get some more information. To him was given the key to the bottomless pit, and he opened the bottomless pit. Smoke arose out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace, so the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke of the pit. Now, listen, some people try to say, because we just read here with the previous judgment, that a third of the sun was going to be blacked out, a third, of the day, a third of the night, and a third of the sun, a third of the moon, a third of the stars. Each of these judgments are specific. Now, there may be similarities. They may do some of the things that other judgments have done, but God's not being redundant here. We have 7 seal judgments, 7 trumpet judgments, 7 bowl judgments. And again, just one clarification on that. The 7th seal becomes 7 trumpets. 7th trumpet becomes 7 bowl judgments. And some people want to say, well, it's just saying the same thing over. I don't think so. Each follows the other here. And it says here, this person's given a key to the bottomless pit. It's opened up. The smoke rises like a great furnace. So the sun, the air were darkened because of the smoke pit. Verse 3. We're in chapter 9, verse 3. Then out of the smoke, locusts came upon the earth, and to them was given power as the scorpions of the earth had power. So if you stop reading there, you think it's a plague of locusts. We have plagues of locusts today, not as much here in the U.S., although in history, pioneer days, there's stories of that. Africa, every once in a while, you hear about these plagues of locusts, and they eat all the crops, do tremendous amount of damage, and it can actually cause famine. Now, with world travel and trade and all that, people are able to get food from different sources. But in the old days, you could starve to death because the locusts came through and wiped out all the crops. Now, these are not locusts. How do we know that? Well, look at what he says, verse 4. They were commanded not to harm the grass of the earth or any green thing or any tree. Now, a lot of those have already been wiped out, right? But that's not their focus. But only those men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. Now, so far, the only ones that we know of that are sealed on the foreheads are the 144,000. There's no indication here that everybody that gets saved, gets a seal here and is protected through the 7 years. And the urgency about this is, if you're watching this today before the rapture and you don't know Christ as your Savior, God's telling us this for a reason. He wants us to get prepared. He wants us to put our faith and trust in Him, what He did for us on the cross. He wants to give us forgiveness of sins. God doesn't want us to go through this, but much of the earth is going to, because much of the earth is still rejecting Jesus Christ. So their focus is going to be on people, this massive cloud of demonic creatures. I think these are clearly demonic creatures. As they come out, verse 5 says, they were not given authority to kill them. This is really important. All of these creatures coming out, it specifically says they have no authority to kill. And this is going to be really weird. Let's just finish reading this and make a couple comments. But to torment them for 5 months. Their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it strikes a man. In those days, men will seek death and will not find it. They will desire to die, and death will flee from them. And I have heard Bible teachers, and one in particular that I have a lot of respect for, he confuses this with the sixth seal judgment that's coming, or the sixth trumpet judgment coming next, the 200 million man army. The 200 million man army has nothing to do with the fifth seal judgment. There are a lot of demonic creatures that come out of the bottomless pit, and they go across the earth tormenting people for 5 months. And it specifically says they can't kill them. And as a matter of fact, not only can they not kill them, for 5 months, there will be no death. So it's this really bizarre situation where billions are dying before and more after. But for 5 months, they're going to be tormented, and the torment's so bad, people are going to want to die. They're going to seek death. They will not be able to find it. But the next one, when we're talking about the 200 million man army, it specifically says they have power to what? To kill a third of the earth. So we'll see that in a few minutes. Why people try dragging these into. All of these judgments are unique, distinct, separate. One generally follows the other. Now, there's some overlap, certainly, with this. One is still ongoing, another one is beginning, so there's going to be overlap. But this is very specific. 5 months, these demonic creatures are let loose. How do we know they're demonic creatures? Look at the description. It says in verse 7, the shape of the locust was like horses. You see, it doesn't say they are horses. It says it's like horses. John's describing what he's seeing. And these are strange creatures. So there's something about them that reminds him of a horse. They're like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were crowns of something like gold. It's not necessarily gold, but something like gold. On their faces, were like the faces of men. There's something eerie about them, creepy about them, but like the face of a man. They had hair like woman's hair, and their teeth were like lion's teeth. And they had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots and many horses running into battle. They had tails like scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. Their power was to hurt men 5 months. Now, look at this. This is fascinating as well. Verse 11 is a powerful clue as to what these creatures are. They had as king over them an angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew is Abaddon, but in the Greek, his name is Apollyon. So these are demonic creatures that are in what's called the bottomless pit. Now, we know Satan, well, first of all, Satan is going to be cast here during the 1,000-year Millennial Kingdom. He's bound and put in the bottomless pit. So these creatures are already there now. So whether these are the fallen angels prior to the flood that interbred with human beings and produced all of these half human, half fallen angel creatures prior to the flood, which of course brought about the tremendous evil on the earth, corrupted the human race, so much so God destroyed them all but Noah and his family. We're not sure, but it's possible that it's a large group of them. And they're let loose to torment people for 5 months during the 7 years of tribulation. And they actually have a king over them, and he's named, right? Abaddon, Apollyon. Now let's go down to verse 13. Verse 12. One woe is past, right? The angel said, woe, 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 3 to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of the 3 angels who are yet to sound. So the 5th angel sounded, we have these demonic creatures. Torment people 5 months. Now the 6th angel is going to sound. And again, what is about to happen or be revealed, John's going to see in heaven, is astonishing. Verse 13, and the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. Now that's interesting. These are going to be 4 fallen angels. They're bound. We don't know the story of them, at least not here in the scriptures. We don't know the story of them. But they're in the location of the Euphrates River. Are these 4 angels also among the angels that kept not their first estate that Jude talks about, which refers back to Noah's day? Are these 4 angels that were among them, but instead of being in the bottomless pit, they are bound somewheres in the location of the Euphrates River? And the command goes out to the angel that blows the 6th trumpet to release those 4 angels. Then what else happens? You need to try to remember this and put these pieces all together. So in verse 15, so the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour, the day, the month, and the year were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. These 4 angels are given the specific task of killing 1/3 of the earth's population. Now, 1/3, 1/4 of the earth's population has already been wiped out under the first seal judgments. Now, as the 6th trumpet is blown, 4 angels are released. They're given authority to kill 1/3 of the remaining. So if you do the math on this, you lose 1/4 of the earth's population. That leaves 75%. 1/3 of the 75%, that's another 25%. So just the first 4 seal judgments and just the 6th trumpet judgment wipes out half the earth's population. And that's beside all the other deaths that are going to be taking place during the 7 years. 4 angels who are bound, so these are fallen angels, are released. They're given authority to kill 1/3. But that's not the whole story here. There's more to come. Look at the very next verse. Well, I want to comment on something first before I leave verse 15. Look at this again. So the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour, the day, the month, and the year. Now, and immediately after this, you'll see that there's this this is the 200 million man army. So you have 4 fallen demonic creatures given authority to kill, but they accompany a massive army. And we'll study more on that in a minute. But you see the hour, the day, the month, and the year. Is the 200 million man army, is it that it takes them a year, a month, and a day and an hour to conquer the world? I mean, it's possible. It's going to take, even though you've got a massive army, which probably, no doubt, it's going to include, this is the revived Roman Empire. And we're going to spend some time on this. It's the revived Roman Empire. It's their army and their allies that they brought together. But why does it say prepared for an hour, a day, month, and a year? It's possible it's just talking about a date, right? If you think of your birth date or today's date, August 5th, 2025, August, whatever, 2025, you've got your month, your day, and your year. It could be that. They're meaning that they're prepared for this moment in time. May very well be what this is referring to. It's also possible it could be referring to that this campaign, the process of the 2 million man army demolishing the rest of the world, conquering the rest of the world, and in the process of conquering the world, they're going to kill a third of mankind. And that process may take a year, a month, and the day and the hour. So in other words, a 13-month war, and they will conquer the world. I want to spend a little bit of time on this, and I think we'll wrap up our session today with this and pick it up here next week. A lot of people, and I used to, when you would see the sheer numbers on this, let's go down. Let's read the next couple of verses before I get ahead of myself. Verse 16. Now the number of the army of the horsemen was 200 million. I heard the number of them, John says. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and those who sat on them had breastplates, fiery red, hyacinth blue, sulfur yellow. And the heads of the horses were like the heads of lions. Now, when you see that, he's talking about the horsemen, he's talking about the horses. And you're like, okay, as you start to read this, you're picturing in your mind, the cavalry, soldiers on horses. Now, many militaries around the world will have units that have horses for various terrain, various applications. They will still have a unit in a particular branch of service, specialty units. So there may be literal horses, but these are not literal horses. And it's obvious as John begins to describe them. Notice what he says. He says, verse 17, I saw horses in the vision, those who sat on them. He describes the colors and the fire, the smoke, the brimstone. But middle part of verse 17, it says, and the heads of the horses were like the heads of lions. So right away, John's describing something, but it's not horses. But it's no doubt he's describing modern warfare. John, in around 90 AD, God takes him to heaven, and God in heaven is showing him scenes from 2026, 27, who knows, whenever the rapture happens and the 7 years of tribulation begin. God is showing John scenes from almost 2,000 years in the future. And John, no doubt, sees tanks, modern heavy equipment on the battlefield. He sees infantry. He sees drones. He sees planes. The descriptions we have in the Old Testament, it talks about leaping from the mountaintops or leaping over the mountaintops. And there the Old Testament prophets are seeing, no doubt, modern aerial warfare. And again, planes, bombers, drones, all of that is going to be a part of this. John's describing it. So he sees the infantrymen, he sees soldiers, no doubt carrying modern weapons. He sees tanks, he sees all kinds of support vehicles and transport vehicles, launch vehicles, missile launch vehicles, all that stuff. John sees it describing it. And he said that the horses had heads like lions, and out of their mouths came fire, smoke, and brimstone. End of verse 17. Fire, smoke, and brimstone is a reference here to modern warfare. The gunpowder and bullets, missiles, whether it's something out of a tank, something out of a infantry rifle, missiles out of the planes, drones, all that stuff. The fire, the smoke, and the brimstone. The propellants that send the weapons that are going to kill on their way. Fire, smoke, and brimstone. So John sees that, he witnesses it, and he says here that out of their mouths come the fire, the smoke, and brimstone. So just picture, go do a search and look up a tank as it fires out of the long, large gun out of the front of the tank. Just look at that picture when it fires at the enemy. And you'll see what John is seeing, no doubt. He's seeing active warfare, and he's describing it, the fire, the smoke, the brimstone. Now, before I make more my closing comments on this, you notice in verse 19, he says their power is in their mouth and in their tails. Most of these vehicles have the ability to fire from the front as well as the back, because you never know where the enemy's coming in from. And it says, for their tails are like serpents having heads, and with them they do harm. But the rest of mankind who were not killed by these plagues did not repent of their works of their hands. Now, let's see. Go back to verse 18. By these three plagues, that's the fire, the smoke, and the brimstone. By these three plagues, a third of mankind was killed by the fire, the smoke, and the brimstone, which came out of their mouths and their powers in their tails. So, 4 angels, 4 demonic fallen angels are bound at or near the river Euphrates. They're there right now, but they're bound. When the 6th angel sounds the trumpet, he's given the command to loose those 4 angels. He looses those 4 angels, those demonic creatures, let's call them 4 ancient demons, and they are given power over a third of mankind. But it's not just the 4 of them. The 4 of them, these ancient demons, have a massive army that has been amassed. Soldiers from countries around the world that have joined together with the revived Roman Empire, what is modern day the European Union in some form. And my thoughts are that the rider on the white horse that goes out when that first seal is loose, that rider on the white horse is likely the Antichrist riding out of modern day European Union. There's a false sense of peace as he rides out, but he's going out conquering and to conquer. He's gathering nations together. And when the ride of the red horse goes out, World War III starts, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. That, and just picture this in your mind for a minute, the ride of the red horse. No doubt, if China hasn't invaded Taiwan, that's going to happen. All of these hot conflicts that are tension points, India, Pakistan, and all of these nations, South Africa, South America, Africa, European nations, Asian nations, they're going to start fighting against each other. But the European Union, the revived Roman Empire, Satan has chosen them. They are his chosen entity to form the one world government. And so that beast system that is even, the early stages of it, we probably can see now. The rider on the white horse is going to go out and gather other nations. And they're preparing to build this massive army. And then there comes a time when they are going to be unleashed. When the sixth angel sounds and these four demons are released, they will join this massive army, and together they're going to go all over the world and conquer it. Every nation will be defeated and will submit to them. Every nation. I used to think that the Terminated Man army had to be China. It can't be China. Satan hasn't chosen China. He's chosen the revived Roman Empire. Daniel 2, fourth empire, the legs of iron. That's Rome. The legs are the feet of iron and clay. That's the revived Roman Empire, the 10 toes, the 10 kings during the 7 years of tribulation. Daniel 7, the four beasts that come out. The fourth beast is an unnamed beast, but he has iron teeth. So you see that same element. And 7 has 10 horns, 10 kings there in the 7 years of tribulation. It's the revived Roman Empire, which is the modern day European Union and its allies in some form. And these 10 kings are going to give their power to the beast, the Antichrist. Why does God loose these four ancient demons? They have incredible power. And of course, you've got this massive army that's going to spread out over the world and conquer everything. And that means even China. And keep in mind this. When you're tempted to think that this army has to be China because of the numbers, it doesn't. If you go back and look at the numbers, I've got a slide on this we may look at in the future, but you go back and just look at the raw numbers for World War II. And the hundreds of millions of soldiers on the Allied forces, as well as the Germany and Italy and Japan. And you can see, and back then it was about a quarter of what the Earth's population is now. Much, it's over 8 billion now. So getting a 200 million man army is not, it's complicated, but it's not unlikely. It's certainly going to happen just as God says. And if you also consider here that the 200 million man army, if you add in, no doubt hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of drones, aerial drones, along with other things, that may get us to that number. But keep in mind, they're going to kill a third of the Earth's population. And it's warfare. That's the thing I want you to remember. They're killed by the fire, the smoke, the brimstone. This is warfare. And so they're going out fighting the armies of the world that have been fighting their own battles. And now this massive army's come together. The European Union now is ready to overtake the rest of the world and build that one world empire that Satan has been craving for thousands of years. And he wants to put this together. And no doubt, many of that 1/3 that's going to be killed will be Chinese armies. They'll be the Far East armies. But when it's done, every nation will submit to them. And we'll see that in Revelation chapter 13. So this is probably a good stopping point. We'll pick it up here, Lord willing, next week. And we'll be looking at getting more into this sixth trumpet judgment. There's stuff here that a lot of times people don't see. And we'll get into, hopefully from here, we'll be getting into and probably through chapter 11. So if you get a chance, sit down and read the next few chapters, and we'll be looking for them next week. Remember, it was tremendously helpful for us. If you know somebody that's interested in this, if you can like and share this, that would be helpful. And let's get the word out, see if we can get more people tuned in to the study. Thank you.